Okay, so last night the Phoenix Suns went up 2-1 on the Los Angeles Clippers, and so far it's a good series. I'd argue both teams are doing well, except Phoenix has some issues that I need to talk about. As much of a good win as this was for the Suns, there are a lot of negatives that I saw in this game that most people, they're not going to really see. That, or they're just ignoring them because they have some sort of bias. And look, I know this is coming from a Suns fan, haha, whatever, but at the end of the day, I notice these things because I've seen just about every game this season from this team. And look, I know some Suns fans might come after me because of the things I gotta say, but in reality, this is just the truth. So real quick, I want to recap last night's games and what kind of took place before, because yes, this does matter. Around like 4 to 5 hours before the game, we got a notification from Woj that he retweeted something that said that Kawhi Leonard was gonna be missing the game. According to the reports I've seen, it is from an injury that Kawhi Leonard got in game 1. Apparently he re-aggravated his knee injury, which to be honest, I didn't even know because in game 2, it looked like he was completely fine, but apparently he was playing through it. So that is why he did miss game 3. At first, I thought it was load management, which I would think is insane, especially in the playoffs, especially in a pretty close series. But I'm gonna go on a limb and say that Kawhi is actually injured, or he's dealing with a lot of pain to the point where it's not even worth playing. Now, I say all of that to say that this game relatively should have been an easy game for the Suns to win. Remember, they already didn't have Paul George. Now they don't have Kawhi. Their best player on the court is Russell Westbrook, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but still, this should be an easy game, especially when your team is fully healthy, well, besides Campaign, but that's about it. And yes, I know Campaign makes an impact on the rotation, but I'm just saying, compared to the Clippers, the Suns are way more healthier. So I think a lot of people were surprised last night when the Suns only won 129 to 124. And there was actually a point in the game where the Clippers could have won. I think the Suns were up by 5 with like 30 something seconds left, and Bones Highland had a wide open 3, and if he would have made that, the game would have been cut down to 2. There were also many opportunities in the game where the Clippers could have just went on a run, but they didn't because of foul trouble or the fact that they just weren't making shots at some points. And look, it's the playoffs. These are great teams. I'm not saying Phoenix should have won by 50. I'm being realistic, but at least look better than the way you did. Now, one person I'm definitely not going to criticize because I have nothing negative to say is Devin Booker. Devin Booker had 45, 6, and 3, and he shot pretty well. Not to mention, on the defensive side, he's been playing a lot better and is looking like an amazing two-way player. And if you want some context, well, in game 1, the Clippers shot 4 of 22, which is 18% when they were guarded by Devin Booker. And in game 2, it was more or less the same, shooting 6 for 20. Now, as of this second, I don't have the stats from game 3, but judging off the eye test and the way he was guarding people, I would like to think it was virtually the same thing. So yeah, I have nothing bad to say about Devin Booker on the offensive side or the defensive side. And to be honest, I'm not really going after players per se. It's just the things that they're doing, if that makes sense. As a matter of fact, I don't even want to start with the players. I want to talk about the coaching and Monty Williams. I still think Monty Williams is a good coach. I think he knows what he's doing, but sometimes he does things that are very boneheaded to say the least. Like for example, the rotations I was seeing last night was very confusing. These random bench combos that he was trying, it just was not working. Also, I know in the playoffs you typically run an 8 to 9 man rotation. I understand that, but it seems like Phoenix is running a 5-man rotation with like a playing your last 3 guys for less than 5 minutes, it seems. And look, that sentence probably made no sense to you, but allow me to explain. In this last game, the Suns' 5 starters, except Torrey Craig, played over 35 minutes. And out of those 4, DeAndre Ayton by far played the least minutes with 35, but everyone else played over 40 minutes as Chris Paul played 41 and Kevin Durant played 41. But Devin Booker played 45 minutes. Now, let me give you context how insane that is. There are 48 minutes in a basketball game, and Devin Booker played in 45 of those minutes last night. I don't need to explain to you how insane that is. Now, some people might just say this is an outlier, but honestly, this has been very consistent through the past 3 games. And look, I understand playing your starters a lot. That is something you need to do. You can't always give your 10-man rotation attention. Like, it's obvious, not everyone in the regular season is going to play in the playoffs. That's why you have an 8 to sometimes 9-man rotation. But the 3 players that the Suns chose to play, first of all, in my opinion, I think some of them should have gotten 0 minutes, but also you're completely neglecting them. And the fact of the matter is, playing your starters over 40 minutes is not sustainable, especially when some of these guys are a little bit older. Like, I can justify playing Booker a lot of minutes, not 45, but at least 40, but I cannot justify you doing the same to Kevin Durant and Chris Paul, who are objectively older. And technically, I don't think Phoenix really had a choice considering these games have been very close. So the allegations the Suns had of we don't have a bench is 100% true. At least that's what it's seeming like. Me personally, I think the bench has some positives, but Monty is not playing to those strengths. Like from what I've seen so far, Landry Shamet should be getting 0 minutes in the playoffs unless the Suns are up by 50. But even in that scenario, I don't want to see Landry Shamet take off his warm-ups. Like, the fact that a guy like Terrence Ross has only gotten 4 minutes this series and it's been 3 games is insane. And I know it's the playoffs, it's a long series. There's a reason why it's best of 7. You have to make adjustments, and I understand that. In fact, a guy like Tyronn Lue, he's definitely been making adjustments throughout the entire series. And that's honestly why I think he's one of the best coaches in the NBA. Don't let Twitter fool you. Like I said, I understand the importance of playing your starters and not trying to run the entire rotation. But I'm sorry, there is no situation where you can play your starters 40 to 45 minutes every single game for 16, minimum 16 games. Realistically, if the Suns were to make the finals, they would have to do this about for 20 to 20-ish 5 games. And if you can't tell, that is literally a quarter of an NBA season. So that is not sustainable in any way, shape, or form. Now, I want to move from that and talk about an actual player, and we got to talk about Chris Paul. Chris Paul is starting to be more of a negative than I actually realized, and by the time I found out, it's already too late. I think Chris Paul has a lot of positives in his game, like shooting a mid-range and shooting a mid-range. Yeah, there are so many bad things I have to say. I think Chris Paul in his career has always been good at running the offense and knowing who to get the ball to and when, but lately it doesn't seem like that. I've seen so many possessions where Kevin Durant is just sitting in the corner being treated like a spot-up shooter, and if you know about Kevin Durant, you know that man is not a spot-up shooter. Like, that's not what his game is built on. I've seen games this year where the Suns barely utilize Kevin Durant unless he's isoing the ball and controlling the offense by himself. And then I've also seen moments where the Suns are like, oh yeah, we have Kevin Durant, arguably a top 10, top 15 player of all time, just chilling. And I'm not saying you got to give him 30 shots per game. I'm not saying that, but it seems like they're not utilizing him as much as they should. And look, I know part of that is because of the Clippers double teams. They are really trying to put most of their defensive attention on Kevin Durant, which I understand. Hence the reason why it seems like Booker is not being defended that well and he's averaging like 40 points per game this series. But so far, all we're seeing is that double teams really have played little to no factor on this team. Also, let's just call a spade a spade. It is very difficult to guard Kevin Durant, whether you're putting 1 or 2 players. It is also impossible to double team a player when you have a team full of spacing. The Suns might have some struggles on their team, but they also have a lot of positives, and one of those positives is spacing. Everyone in the Suns starting lineup is great at spacing, and I know DeAndre Ayton's not the best 3-point shooter, but at the mid-range, he is a demon. I know Monty Williams had a press conference last night where he made a joke about not utilizing Kevin Durant, which I think that pissed a lot of people off. Now, there is a thought in the back of my mind on why this is happening, and I think it makes sense. I think either A, Monty Williams is a dumbass who completely forgot how to coaching, or B, he's using Kevin Durant as a secret weapon. Now, I know using Kevin Durant as a secret weapon isn't that secret, right? But I want you to think about it this way. Booker is scoring a lot of the points, and people are starting to realize that Phoenix is not utilizing KD. And honestly, besides one game, Phoenix hasn't really been in a situation where they needed to just say, all right, KD, here you go win the game. Phoenix is up in the series 2-1 right now, and there hasn't been a game where they really needed Kevin Durant to go off. 28 points in an NBA game is not bad, but when you got playoff KD, you expect like 35 to 40. I know a lot of Suns fans are pissed that Monty Williams is not utilizing KD and letting him run the offense, but I think Monty Williams is doing this on purpose. And I'm not gonna lie, it is a very clever move if that's what he's doing. But of course, there is maybe one reason why he hasn't done so well, and that's because of Russell Westbrook. The key thing about Russell Westbrook this series has been his defense. He's had some games where he can score, but his defense on KD and Booker has been interesting. And I think it's safe to say that Westbrook has saved his career by joining the Clippers. And if you want to see me talk about it, I made a video, click right here.